They wanted witnesses. That was the first thing I understood as I sat at the defense table in a federal bankruptcy courtroom in Philadelphia, hands folded, spine straight, pulse steady. This wasn't about money, it never was. This was theater, carefully staged, well-lit humiliation with a front-row audience. My parents had packed the room. Reporters filled the gallery, whispering, "Phones ready." Old family acquaintances, people who once clinked glasses with my father at charity galas, sat behind them like jurors waiting to be entertained. The air smelled of floor polish, perfume, and anticipation. Across the aisle, my family played their roles perfectly. My father sat tall, chin lifted, dressed in mourning gray as if he were attending the funeral of his daughter's competence. My mother dabbed at dry eyes with a silk scarf, grief on a metronome. And my brother, my brother leaned forward, relaxed, confident, already savoring the ending. He caught my eye and gave me a soft, regretful smile. I tried to help her, it said. She didn't listen. To me, it said something else entirely. "I'm about to erase you." "Doing okay?" my attorney whispered. I nodded once. "Better than they expect." She slid 3 heavy boxes onto the table between us. The cardboard scraped against the wood, loud, deliberate. Heads turned. "They're here for blood," she murmured. "Let's give them something sharper." The bailiff called the court to order. Everyone stood as Judge Harold Whitmore entered, stone-faced, already irritated. He didn't like spectacle, and my family had dragged one straight onto his docket. The plaintiff's attorney rose immediately. "Your Honor," he began, voice rich, sympathetic, "this is a tragic family matter." I almost laughed. He spoke of betrayal, of generosity repaid with recklessness, of a brother who had loaned millions out of love, only to be burned by a sister playing CEO in a company that never stood a chance. Numbers echoed through the room. Gasps followed. Pens scratched faster. I watched my mother cry on cue. I watched my father stare at the floor like a broken man, and I waited. Because buried inside their performance, inside the forged documents, the practiced grief, the fake concern, was a single mistake. One question. And when the judge finally reached it, when his fingers froze mid-page and his eyes lifted slowly from the file, I knew. After 8 years of silence, of being underestimated, dismissed, and hunted, they had just given me my moment, and the room was about to learn exactly who I was. The judge didn't speak right away. That silence, thick, deliberate, pressed harder than any gavel strike. He flipped another page, then another. Slowly, methodically, like a man checking his footing before stepping onto thin ice. My brother shifted beside his attorney, annoyance flickering across his face. This wasn't in the script. He was used to momentum, money creating gravity, dragging outcomes in his direction. Delays made him restless. Judge Whitmore finally looked up, not at my lawyer, at me. "Miss Ross," he said, voice calm, deceptively so, "please stand." I did. My knees felt solid. That surprised me. 8 years ago, I would have been shaking. "I want to clarify something before we proceed," he continued, tapping a page near the back of the file. "This petition describes your company as insolvent, non-operational, and without viable contracts." He paused, eyes narrowing slightly. "Is that accurate?" My attorney rose. "Your Honor," the judge raised a hand. I asked her. Every camera in the room leaned forward without moving. "No, Your Honor," I said evenly. "It isn't." A ripple passed through the gallery. My mother's hand froze mid-dab. My father's jaw tightened. The judge nodded once. "Then, help me understand this discrepancy." He leaned back, fingers steepled. "This morning, before court, I read an industry brief regarding federal infrastructure security. It referenced a contractor described as low profile, privately held, and operationally critical." My brother's smirk faltered. "The firm," the judge went on, "was noted for securing regional energy systems under a multi-year federal agreement." He looked down at the file again, then back at me. The name listed was Northbridge Shield Works. The room went dead silent. My attorney didn't move. She didn't need to. "That's your company," the judge said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, Your Honor." A breath broke somewhere behind me. Not mine. The judge turned slowly toward the plaintiff's table. "Mr. Vance," he said, addressing my brother's attorney, "are you asking this court to seize the assets of a company actively engaged in federal infrastructure protection?" Vance blinked. Once, twice. "Your Honor, the media often exaggerates." "Answer the question," the judge snapped. My brother leaned forward, whispering urgently, "Too late." "If this court intervenes improperly," the judge continued, voice sharpening, "it risks interfering with active national security operations." My mother stopped crying. My father finally looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. And in his eyes I saw it. Shock. Not disappointment. Not anger. Fear. Because they hadn't come here to fight a fortress. They'd come to crush what they thought was a hobby. And now the judge was holding the match they'd dropped, right above their own paperwork. The question had been asked, and the fire was just starting. My brother recovered fast. He always did. He straightened in his chair, smoothed his tie, leaned toward his attorney like a man inconvenienced by a minor delay. Confidence, real or borrowed, was his favorite disguise. "Your Honor," his lawyer said carefully, "the plaintiff believes the defendant is exaggerating her company's role. The so-called federal work is indirect, subcontracted, inflated for appearances." I watched my brother nod along, lips pressed into a thin line of agreement. He was selling calm, control, the idea that this was all still manageable. The judge didn't look convinced. "Miss Ross," he said, eyes returning to me, "are you a subcontractor?" "No, Your Honor." "Then what is your role?" I took a breath, not because I needed it, but because pacing matters. "We are the primary security architect for the system," I said. "Our software monitors and defends operational controls across multiple sites. If it goes offline, systems fail." The judge's pen stopped moving. "Fail how?" I didn't look at my family when I answered. I didn't need to. Power outages, water pressure drops, emergency facilities losing automated regulation, cascading effects. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. This wasn't tech jargon anymore. This was real-world consequence. The judge leaned back slowly. "And yet," he said, flipping a page with visible irritation, "this filing describes your company as a non-essential venture with no public impact." He looked up sharply. "That language came from you, Mr. Hawthorne?" My brother's smile returned, but weaker now. "Your Honor, I relied on information provided to me. I'm not a technical expert." That was his mistake. The judge nodded once. "No," he said quietly, "but you are a financial professional, and this court expects accuracy when national infrastructure is involved." He turned to my attorney. "Ms. Carter, does the defense have documentation?" She stood. "Yes, Your Honor." She opened the first box. The sound, thick paper shifting, binders opening, cut through the room like thunder. She didn't rush. She let the weight of it land. Federal compliance letters, contract verification, audit confirmations. We also have evidence that the alleged loan at the center of this petition never occurred. That got a reaction. My mother gasped softly. My father leaned forward. My brother's jaw tightened. The judge raised an eyebrow. Never occurred? No wire transfer, no deposit, no matching ledger entries. "And," she added, "we have reason to believe the documents submitted by the plaintiff contain material fabrications." Silence. Pure, deadly silence. My brother finally looked at me. Not with pity, not with superiority, but with calculation. The way predators look when they realize the terrain isn't what they expected. And for the first time since this began, I saw something real crack through his composure. Because this wasn't just about embarrassing me anymore. This was about exposure. And the walls were closing in. My attorney didn't wait for permission. She never did when blood was in the water. "Your Honor," she said, lifting a single document instead of the thick stack behind her, "I'd like to start small." She handed a copy to the clerk, then another to the judge. "This," she continued, "is the alleged wire confirmation for the $2.4 million loan." The judge adjusted his glasses and examined it. His eyes moved slowly, line by line. "Routing number," he murmured. My brother leaned back, crossing his arms, feigning boredom, but his foot tapped once under the table. I noticed. I always noticed. My attorney spoke again. "We had an independent forensic accountant verify this transfer. That routing number does not belong to any registered financial institution." The judge looked up sharply. "Explain." "It fails the Federal Reserve checksum validation," she said, "meaning no such wire could have cleared, ever." A quiet, stunned inhale rippled through the gallery. "That's impossible," my brother said suddenly. Too fast, too loud. The judge's head snapped toward him. "You will speak through counsel." My brother swallowed. My attorney pressed on. "We subpoenaed the plaintiff's banking records. There is no outgoing transfer, no debit, no hold, no trace of funds leaving his accounts in that amount at any time." She paused. "Let it sink in. In other words," she said calmly, "the loan never existed." My mother's face drained of color. The judge leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Then how," he asked slowly, "did this document come to be submitted to my court?" That was the question no one wanted answered. My attorney reached into the box again and pulled out a second sheet. Older, yellowed slightly at the edges. "Your Honor, this is an email sent by the plaintiff to my client 2 days before the date on the alleged loan agreement." She read aloud. "I'm not bailing you out when this little science project collapses." The judge's jaw tightened. My brother stared at the table. "You mock the business," the judge said, eyes hard. "You refuse assistance. Then suddenly, 2 days later, you wire millions out of love?" He didn't wait for an answer. That strains credibility. The air felt electric now, not tense, charged. My father shifted in his seat, no longer composed. He whispered something urgently to my mother. She didn't respond. She was staring at the document like it might bite her. Then my attorney delivered the line that changed everything. "There is one more issue, Your Honor, the notarization." The judge looked up sharply. "What about it?" She held up the final page. "The notary seal is authentic," she said, "but it does not belong to a neutral third party." She turned slightly, just enough. "It belongs to the plaintiff's mother." My mother gasped, loud this time. The judge's gaze snapped to the front row, and in that moment I watched my family realize something terrible. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was conspiracy. And the court had just noticed. The courtroom didn't erupt. It froze. My mother's gasp echoed far louder than any shout could have. Heads turned. Reporters leaned forward. The judge's eyes locked onto the front row with a sharpness that stripped away performance and pretense. "Is that accurate?" he asked, voice flat. "The notary seal belongs to Mrs. Hawthorne?" My attorney nodded once. "Yes, Your Honor. The seal impression is physical, not digital, which means the document was manually notarized." The judge didn't look at my brother. He looked directly at my mother. "Mrs. Hawthorne," he said, "do you currently hold an active notary commission in this state?" She opened her mouth. Closed it. My father's hand reached for hers. She pulled away. I used to," she stammered, "years ago." "Do you still possess the seal?" the judge pressed. Silence. That silence screamed louder than any confession. "Answer the question," the judge said. "Yes," she whispered. The gallery inhaled as one. My attorney stepped forward again, relentless now. "Your Honor, using an active or expired notary seal to authenticate a document known to be false constitutes notary fraud. Submitting it to federal court elevates that to potential criminal liability." My mother began to shake. My father stood up halfway before the bailiff barked, Sit down." The judge rubbed his temple, the weariness gone, replaced by something colder. "This court," he said slowly, "is not a family mediation service. It is not a stage for vendettas, and it will not be used as a weapon." He turned to my brother. "Mr. Hawthorne, you've presented forged financial instruments, falsified claims of debt, and potentially coerced a notary into certifying a lie." My brother finally stood. "Your Honor, this is getting out of hand. This is a misunderstanding." "No," the judge cut in, "this is unraveling." He gestured toward my attorney. "You mentioned additional evidence." She nodded and placed a fresh document on the bench. "An emergency motion filed by the plaintiff yesterday evening," she said, "requesting seizure of assets based on intelligence he should not possess." The judge's eyes flicked over the page. "Milwaukee?" he murmured. My brother went pale. My attorney didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. "That location does not exist. It was fabricated internally after this petition was filed." She turned slightly, letting the implication hang. "Which means someone inside my client's company is feeding the plaintiff real-time information, or attempted information." The judge looked back at my brother, disbelief hardening into fury. "Who," he asked quietly, "are you spying on?" That was when I saw it. Not arrogance, not superiority, panic. And for the first time in my life, my family wasn't controlling the room. They were trapped in it. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Someone," he said slowly, "provided the plaintiff with internal operational details that did not exist outside the defendant's organization." His gaze swept the courtroom, over the attorneys, over my family, over the rows of observers pretending not to hold their breath. That raises concerns far beyond civil liability. My brother's attorney stood again, hands up in practiced damage control. "Your Honor, even if information was shared, that does not imply wrongdoing. My client is a creditor." "Your client," the judge interrupted, "just filed an emergency motion based on a location that does not exist." He tapped the paper, once, hard. "That is not confusion. That is fabrication layered on insider intelligence." The word insider landed like a dropped plate. My attorney took one step forward. "Your Honor, we also have evidence that the plaintiff attempted to act on that false intelligence." She held up another document, fresh, crisp. "This morning, an email was sent to one of my client's hospital network customers. It claimed the plaintiff was a court-appointed trustee and demanded administrative access to life support infrastructure." The gallery erupted. Gasps, murmurs. Someone swore under their breath. The judge's face went rigid. "Impersonating a trustee," he said, "and targeting a hospital?" My brother turned to his lawyer, whispering frantically. His confidence had evaporated completely now. Sweat dotted his temple. "That email," my attorney continued, "references the fabricated Milwaukee transfer, verbatim." She let that hang. "Which proves two things. First, the plaintiff believed the false information because he received it from someone he trusted. Second, he acted on it, recklessly." The judge leaned back, staring at my brother like he was seeing him for the first time. "You didn't just lie to this court," he said quietly. "You endangered public safety." My brother finally snapped. "I was protecting my investment." The judge's voice dropped to a level that made the room shrink. "You don't have an investment." Silence. Pure, annihilating silence. Then the judge spoke again. "I want to know," he said, eyes narrowing, "who inside Northbridge Shieldworks gave you access to information you had no right to possess." My heart hammered. Not from fear, but anticipation. Because I already knew the answer. And so did the man sitting in the back row, head down, jacket zipped up to his chin, suddenly wishing the exit door wasn't locked. The judge followed my gaze. "Bailiff," he said, "hold the room." The trap had closed, and the rat was still inside. The bailiff moved first. He stepped to the back of the courtroom, blocking the exit with one solid arm, eyes scanning faces the way a cop does when he already knows the suspect is still inside. The low murmur in the room died instantly. "Remain seated," the judge ordered. No one moved. I looked past my brother, past my parents, past the lawyers, and straight to the back row. Jason. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He wasn't looking at anyone. His gaze was fixed on the floor, jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscle jump in his cheek. The Northbridge jacket I'd given him last Christmas suddenly looked ridiculous on him, like a stolen uniform. The judge noticed. "You?" he said, pointing. Not at my brother, not at my parents, but at Jason. "Stand up." Jason hesitated. "Stand. Up." Slowly, like gravity had doubled, Jason rose from his seat. "State your name for the record," the judge said. Jason Miller," he stammered. I'm a project manager." "Employed by Northbridge Shield Works?" "Yes, sir." My brother's head snapped around. His eyes widened just a fraction. Recognition, calculation, regret. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Miller, did you communicate with the plaintiff or anyone acting on his behalf regarding internal company operations?" Jason swallowed hard. "No," he said. The lie was weak, thin, desperate. My attorney stood immediately. "Your Honor, may I?" The judge nodded. She handed the bailiff a document. "Phone records obtained by subpoena this morning. Calls placed by Mr. Miller to a number registered to Hawthorne Crest Advisors, 3 times within 24 hours of the fabricated Milwaukee memo being circulated." Jason's knees buckled slightly. My brother shot to his feet. "This is outrageous." "Sit down," the judge snapped. "You've done enough." Jason's voice broke. "I didn't know it was fake. He said it was urgent. He said the company was going under and that he was trying to stop a disaster." My laugh escaped before I could stop it. Not loud, just a single sharp breath of disbelief. "Who is he?" the judge asked. Jason looked at my brother. "Mr. Hawthorne," my father stood. "This is absurd. My son—" "Your son," the judge interrupted coldly, "just got caught coordinating corporate espionage during active federal proceedings." My mother started crying again, but this time it wasn't rehearsed. The judge leaned back, surveying the wreckage. "Mr. Hawthorne," he said, "you are no longer a plaintiff in a civil dispute." The words hung heavy. "You are a subject of inquiry." My brother's face drained completely, and in that moment, as the courtroom shifted from spectacle to consequence, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not victory, not joy. Relief that the truth, ugly, sharp, undeniable, was finally standing in the light. And it wasn't standing alone anymore. My brother didn't sit down this time. He stood there, frozen, hands half raised, like the rules of the room had changed without warning. And they had. The easy confidence he'd worn like a tailored suit was gone, replaced by something raw and unpracticed. "This is insane," he said, voice tight. He acted on his own. Jason shook his head, tears spilling now. "You told me what to send. You told me what mattered. You said if the servers moved, everything would collapse." The judge's expression hardened. "Mr. Hawthorne," he said, "you leveraged an employee to extract sensitive operational intelligence, then attempted to use that intelligence to seize control of a company engaged in federal infrastructure protection." He leaned forward. "That is not family drama. That is coordinated interference." My father finally broke. "This has gone far enough," he said, stepping into the aisle. "This is a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. My son was trying to protect the family." The judge looked at him coolly. "Your family does not outrank the public." That landed like a physical blow. My mother sobbed openly now, mascara streaking, veil abandoned. The image she'd so carefully curated, grieving matriarch, betrayed parent, collapsed under the weight of the truth. "Mrs. Hawthorne," the judge said, turning to her, "you will remain seated." She obeyed. The judge exhaled slowly, then spoke words I will never forget. "This court dismisses the involuntary bankruptcy petition with prejudice." A collective gasp. "And," he continued. I am referring this matter to federal investigators for review of forgery, fraud, impersonation of court officials, and interference with critical infrastructure. My brother staggered back into his chair. My attorney squeezed my hand once under the table. The judge wasn't done. Mr. Miller, he said, turning back to Jason, you are ordered to surrender your devices to the clerk immediately. Failure to comply will result in contempt. Jason nodded numbly. Ms. Ross, the judge said, his voice shifting, less sharp now, more measured, you will provide your compliance documentation to my chambers. This court will not be the reason a national security contract is disrupted. I nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. The gavel came down. Not with finality, with judgment. As the room erupted, reporters shouting, lawyers scrambling, bailiffs moving, I stayed seated for a moment longer. I looked at my family, at the father who'd told me I would fail, at the mother who'd stamped a lie, at the brother who tried to steal my life using my own work against me. They didn't look powerful anymore, they looked exposed, and as I stood, as cameras flashed and my attorney guided me toward the exit, I understood something with absolute clarity. They hadn't just lost the case, they'd lost the story, and the story had always been the only thing they truly owned. The hallway outside the courtroom felt unreal, too bright, too quiet, like the aftermath of an explosion where your ears haven't caught up yet. Reporters surged toward me the moment the doors opened. Ms. Ross, was the bankruptcy filing fraudulent? Did your family really forge documents? Is it true federal investigators are involved? Cameras flashed. Microphones crowded my face. My attorney stepped in front of me like a shield. No statements at this time. But I caught one question before we moved on. Are you okay? I stopped walking. I turned back just slightly, enough for the cameras to catch my face. Not shaken, not angry, not triumphant. I'm working, I said. That was the truth. We moved past them, down the marble corridor, past the benches where defendants usually sit with their heads down. I kept my head level. Not high, not low, level. Behind us, the Hawthorne family was unraveling. My father was arguing with a bailiff, voice sharp and incredulous, like authority should bend just because it always had. My mother was being led away by a clerk, mascara streaked, veil crushed in her fist, whispering my name like it was a spell that might still work. My brother didn't follow. He sat alone at the plaintiff's table, staring at his phone, refreshing a screen that no longer obeyed him. I knew that look. The look of someone realizing the old rules had stopped applying. Outside, the city moved on. Cars honked. Pedestrians passed without recognizing me. A man argued with a parking meter. Life, ordinary, indifferent, continued. My attorney leaned close. Federal referrals move fast when infrastructure is involved. I know, I said. You should expect interviews, possibly subpoenas. They may want testimony about your family. I exhaled slowly. I'm ready. She studied me for a moment. You okay seeing them fall apart like that? I thought of the library where I'd once begged for belief, of the years I'd spent silent, building in the dark, of the way my brother smiled this morning, convinced I was already finished. They made their choices, I said. I just stopped protecting them from consequences. We reached the exit. Sunlight spilled across the steps, harsh and honest. I paused there, letting it hit my face. For 8 years, I'd been preparing for failure. I hadn't prepared for vindication, not because I didn't deserve it, but because it didn't matter. What mattered was this. They could no longer reach me. And for the first time since I'd left that house, since I'd changed my name and erased myself from their world, I wasn't running anymore. I was standing exactly where I'd built my life to stand. And I wasn't done yet. 3 weeks after the hearing, the calls started. Not from reporters, not from gossip blogs, from people who didn't care about my last name, only about outcomes. Federal investigators came first. Quiet. Precise. They didn't raise their voices or threaten me. They didn't need to. I gave them everything: emails, timelines, memos, phone logs. I told the truth the way I always had. Clean, documented, unemotional. Jason took a plea deal. My mother lost her notary commission permanently. My brother's wealth management license was suspended pending investigation. His firm froze his authority the same day the news broke. Clients fled faster than rats from smoke. My father didn't call, not once. Northbridge Shield Works didn't miss a single deployment. The substations went live on schedule. The grid held. Hospitals stayed lit. Water kept flowing. No one reading the headlines ever connected those quiet successes to the chaos in that courtroom, and that was exactly how I wanted it. One night, late, after the office had emptied, I stood alone in the server room. The hum was steady, alive, the sound of something that worked because it had been built honestly. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who begged to be taken seriously, who confused proximity to power with power itself. That girl wouldn't recognize me now. And that was the point. Power isn't inherited, it isn't borrowed, it isn't taken by force or fraud. It's built, slowly, painfully, by people who keep showing up long after applause fades. My family lost everything they used to control me with: their money, their story, their certainty. I didn't win because I destroyed them. I won because they couldn't touch what I built. And they never understood that was the most dangerous thing of all.